Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melissa Caprio.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. It's Wednesday. How are you guys doing? I hope everybody is doing well. It's my favorite day of the week because I get to talk to some amazing guests. And today I have Bjorn Lestrud on today, and he is the founder of Blue Dragon Healing. He's very interesting, the work he does. So he's going to join me in just a couple of minutes. To my regulars, oh my God, thank you so much for being here with me each week. It means the world to me. You have no idea. I get emails and people tell me they've listened to my show and they love it and they love my guests, and it just means the world. And if you're listening to me for the first time, I want to say welcome. You can always listen to any of my shows, if you like today's show, on the archives on Om Times Radio. We're on all of the podcasting platforms. And I also upload every show I do on my website, postcardstotheuniverse.com, under podcasts. So, just a little bit about me. I'm a photographer, I'm an author, I'm an artist. I have a book titled Postcards to the Universe: Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. And in my book, I talk about the power of manifesting, about being a conscious co creator with the universe. And the way that I like to do it is through having people create manifesting postcards, which is kind of like a vision board. So people will put what they want to manifest on their postcard, they put all their energy into it. And of course, there's a lot of things you need to do after you release the postcard, but that's the fun part. And when their manifestation shows up in the reality, I share their stories. So there's 30 of those stories in the book. And this weekend, oh, well, actually Friday night, if you're in South Florida, we're having a big opening in where I live. I live in a it's like an art collaboration building. So they're live art residencies, and we have a three-story gallery in the middle of the building. So we're having a big reception and opening. There's 26 artists. I'm one of the artists, and I have my book there. And of course, what do I have? 12 images. Yeah, I have 12 images in the show of the postcards. So I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a big event. So if you live in South Florida and you want to come, just let me know. It's 6 to 10. It's in Fort Lauderdale, and I hope that you do. It's going to be a big party. So I'm super excited about that. It took a lot to put the show together. And I'm very, very proud of it. So if you're interested, also, if you're like, what is this manifesting postcard thing? If you go to my website, postcardsuniverse.com, I tell you how to create a manifesting postcard and also where to send it. The address is listed there. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. You can find me, you can connect on my email or on any of the social media, and I will respond and help you. I love getting them. I get so excited when I go to the mailbox and I have another postcard. And if you do send one, just let me know to expect it so I can keep on the lookout for it. Okay, so let me get to my guest today. Bjorn Lestrud is a sound healer, storyteller, and founder of Blue Dragon Healing. His journey has been deeply shaped by ancient shamanic traditions and personal experiences with plant medicines, which helped him reconnect with his true self. Now he helps others do the same, guiding them toward emotional clarity, spiritual growth, and authentic self expression. A pivotal moment came in 2010 when Bjorn explored the teachings of Bob Proctor, leading to an emotional release that marked the beginning of his awakening. This experience inspired him to seek deeper fulfillment and genuine expression. His journey took a significant turn in 2021 during the Light Portal in Tulum, where he began a series of encounters, ancient wisdom, and discovered the power of sound through transformative experiences with plant medicine and biofield tuning. Through his explorations, including work with shamans from around the world, he deepened his understanding of healing and authenticity. These encounters highlighted the importance of connection in the healing process, ultimately guiding him to create Blue Dragon Healing. His flagship program, Primal Path, offers individuals a structured journey through pain, awakening, transformation, and heritage. And if you want to find out more about his work and what he does, go to bluedragonhealing.net. Welcome, Bjorn. Thanks.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you again, and I know I asked you before we went on. Say your name correctly because did I say it right or did I say it wrong? Because I do this all the time. Go ahead. So it's Bjorn
Well, there
Lestrud.
isn't necessarily a wrong way to say it just because my name is pronounced differently depending on whether you're in the US or in Europe. One says
Okay.
Bjorn, the other says Björn.
Okay. And your last name?
Well, Lestrud is the most common, but there were a
Lestrud.
number of people in my past that called me Lestrud.
Yeah, Lestrud. Okay. Yeah, because my last name is Caprio, but a lot of people say Caprio. So I get that too.
Mm,
So I understand. Okay. So interesting the work that you do. So I, of course, before my guests come on, I always go through their website and if they have a book, read their book or see the work that they're doing, listen to
hmm
videos. So how did you get like what inspired this kind of work?
I mean, it's a reflection of
Is
my
it deep?
personal journey, really. Yeah.
Yeah. You took a
and
deep breath for that one, so obviously it's
yeah,
very
just connecting all the pieces of the universe into one before
right.
I speak from my heart.
Right.
uh,
Exactly.
yeah, it's a reflection of my personal brand and my approach to life and the things that I've been through and how they have been translated into making an impact on other people than just me. And
Mhm.
so I would say that a lot of my life has been about understanding emotions, instincts, and egos. Like, I don't know if you're into human design or anything like that, but
Yeah,
so there's an
a little
interesting
bit.
way of looking at human design where if you look at everyone has a human design chart, and if you look at your chart, there are all these different centers. Some of them are chakras, some of them are more specific to human design, but each one is either shaded with a color or it's white and open. So we all have at least one open center. And so whatever centers are open for us is basically our gift and how we can interface with other people and understand them and provide value to
Mhm.
them. Meaning, like,
Right.
if I have an open ego center, then it means that I don't really have a very strong defined sense of motivation or goal setting or a sense of self in that way, but
Mhm.
that I very intensely experience that from other people and what their sense of self is. And so for me, it's been a journey of coming to terms with that, understanding of the way emotions work and how to process them and what drives the deeper rhythms beneath it all, with the patterns that are kind of hidden beneath the surface that even transcend self and move into the area of the cosmos and ancestral and the akashic.
Mm. Yeah.
uh,
Very
so that's
interesting.
kind of like a very meta
Right. Yeah.
way
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
describing
Yeah. Well, our journeys are never a straight line, right? So, so
it.
it's and as we go, whatever our journey is, we discover things on our path that take us in certain directions and
Yeah.
deeper understanding and our learning and stuff. So I just imagine that you've had the same kind of experience in your journey. But I just wanted to tell you, so in human design, I'm a reflector.
That's a really more unique one, actually.
It's not surprised I have a radio show, right? I know. I know. I learned about it probably about 5 or 6 years, and I didn't really delve that deep into it, but a woman who I met who was very into it, she did, just briefly, she went over and told me I was a reflector. So I read a little bit about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's
Hmm.
interesting." Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So I reflect back to what people show me, right? Like a mirror almost, right?
Do you take
Kind of.
sometimes a longer time to go through a
Mhm.
process to make decisions about things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And in my astrological chart, I'm a Gemini, so there's always 2 choices. So you can imagine. But, I was reading something and you do some, I mean, besides the channeling, the impact of the channeling, and you do journeys. I know you have explored ayahuasca journeys with people and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to kind of talk about your light portal ceremony because a lot of people are going to be hearing and they're going to be like, what does that even mean? What is a light portal ceremony and how that happens? So can you share what that was for
Yeah,
you and what that is? Okay.
sure. I so I'd been traveling for about 5 years, living in like 15 different countries for oh, different periods of time. Sometimes as short as a day, sometimes for months. It wasn't until I arrived in Tulum, after responding to an invitation from a friend who was already down there, that some really interesting things started happening in my life. One of them was that my friend, the one that invited me down, he stubbed his toe, and the whole thing was just black and blue, and it was the whole toenail was black, and it was one of those deals where if you showed it to anyone, they would feel the need or the sense to tell you, your toenail's gonna fall off, right?
Yeah, it's true. That's what I thought, because I've had a
Yep,
toenail fall off,
yep.
so
Well, there
I
you
was
go.
like, "Ooh, that's the first thing I thought." Okay, go
It
ahead.
was the big toe, and
Mm,
it was wow. So I had just seen his toe very recently, within the last couple of days, and then I saw him again and seen him for a couple of days, and he said, "Look at my toe," and I looked at his toe, and it's completely normal. There's no discoloration, no black and blue. The toenail is white, like a normal toenail color. And I asked him, "How did this happen?"
right.
He had gone to this ceremony called the Light Portal, and
Mm,
he left like that. So got me curious, of course,
of
because
course.
when you see something in front of your eyes, it's hard to deny. Even a scientific mind, which I don't really consider myself scientist per se, but I have a very practical side to me, and so I saw that, and well, okay, I guess I'll go to the lake. That's all about. Uh, Never really gotten too into spirituality and the metaphysical stuff. I mean, I was always interested in some of like the stuff where the rubber meets the road, and some works like
Mm,
The Alchemist or
yeah.
Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and a lot of personal development and looking at thoughts. But if we're talking about like ancestral healing or shamanic chanting or anything like that, no, I hadn't really touched it. But I was open minded to a point on it. And so he brought me to, because they had this ceremony once a week. So he brought me, and we were in a room with like maybe 20 total participants. We were all around the outside of the room, and there were mats for each of us on the floor, like yoga mats, basically. And about 4 or 5 facilitators, backgrounds, all drawing from different healing lineages and traditions. So you had Tien, who was the one who really was in charge isn't the right word, but it was kind of his baby in the sense that he groomed the process for the ceremony, and he knew all. He was sort of the glue that brought that group together, and he had really he used to have had previously had a healing center in Thailand, and he was from Vietnam, and he's been shamanism for like 30 years. There was this other woman, Ina, this ancient Muslim lineage and family, and she was trained on it when she was a little girl, that kind of work. And so that's an example of like two of them. So basically, they had us go through a process where we were combining a bunch of different modalities in one sitting. So we did something called biodynamic breath work, where you are basically combining movement with, in this case, open mouth breathing, which we did for a while. Qigong type movements and maybe some yoga type movements, combining with some really strong breathing. And then they invited us all down on our backs, and this is when things started getting more dynamic, even where someone started playing a drum, someone was chanting, people were walking, the facilitators were walking around, and they would stop intuitive to where different participants were and start working on them, like muscle work, digging into the fascia, that sort of thing, for releasing blockages. So I was laying there and the woman I told you about, Ina, came over and started working on me. And I mean, honestly, she's a very tiny person, but when she could dig her fingers in, it hurt like heck. And, I was borderline ready to scream, and there were people in there that were screaming and crying, and it's like a whole mess of emotions in there. But I didn't scream. And as she finished her work and got up and moved on, I started to laugh, and then this deep laughter was just moving through me, and I just caught a sense that it was a deeper part of me that I wasn't used to experiencing. It was like familiar but unfamiliar, and the laughter just shone right through and got some other people laughing too. And so that wasn't it for my first light portal experience. I didn't have any sort of miracle healing or anything like that, but what it did was it made me more curious. And so I set up a private session with Ina and Jose, two of the facilitators, and they came to my apartment, and we put a bed down on the floor, and Ina worked on me for an hour and a half this time. And then after she did all the body work, the three of us sat and talked, and she started telling me, like, I saw, these energies on your mother's side, these energies from your father's side. Spirit guide that was a jaguar. I saw this spirit guide that was a Native American shaman. And then we got to the last part of their private session when they served me a plant medicine called hape, which, for those who don't know what that is, it's like people call it shamanic snuff. So hape is based on tobacco, but it also has psychoactive components to it. And you take it in the nose. So he served me this hape, and it knocked me out. I mean, it sent me somewhere. He served me the hape, and then Jose got up behind me and he started shaking maracas in my ears. And so my mind was not able to try and explain away what was happening to me, because I couldn't think with the sound. And so I wasn't able, my mind, to think away. And I was forced to deal with it and feel it. And what started happening is Jose started just chanting while he was shaking the maracas, and something moved in me, and I started chanting. And then I realized I couldn't stop chanting, and I felt really heavy, dense energy moving through me, and got sick on the floor, and was sick like a dog for a few hours. But the next morning,
Literally, you got you
yeah,
vomited sick. Yeah, because I've
yes,
heard that happen a lot with ayahuasca and the what is it, bufo, however you say
Bupo.
that. Yeah, bufo, get violently violently sick. It's like a purging. You're purging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Hape is known for that. It's as a purgatory. So
Mm.
yeah, I got, when I said that literally, it was literal. I vomited. I use the term purge because it's commonly accepted in that community, and it's
Yeah.
a much lighter term
Yeah.
because it doesn't make me
Right.
picture it when I say it.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I had a physical purge, we'll say, and
Mhm.
was laying on the floor for like 3 hours. I didn't even want to get up on the couch. The couch was right next to me. I could have at least gotten up on the couch and laid there, but the ground felt
Was
so much
cool
more secure and safe.
and cold, right? And cool.
Cold and cool, and
Yeah, like
just
that
hard
cool,
and
that kind. Yeah.
trustworthy. It felt trustworthy.
Right.
Like, hey, he's my old friend, almost like, holding a stone from the earth in your hand, kind of a thing. And so I just laid on the floor until I was ready to get up. The next morning when I woke up, I realized that I had this arthritic pain in my knees, for the past 2 years leading up to that, where anytime I would be sitting more than a couple of minutes, I would have to straighten my legs out because my knees would start stiffening up. And this was, chronic, constant, every day kind of thing. But when I woke up that morning after that purge from the private session, all of that knee pain issue was gone, totally gone.
Mm, that's interesting. What did you think? You're like, was your mind blown? Were you like, what just happened to me?
I didn't know what to think. I couldn't deny how I felt, and it wasn't something that I was what had an expectation for. I had no expectation that there would be anything different when I woke up the next day, actually, and it was a relief, I guess, is the best way to say
Yeah.
it. I mean, I didn't really care that much where it came from, and in the moment when I felt that, it was just there was a sense of relief.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine it would be because especially if
Yeah,
you've have pain every day and then all of a sudden you're not experiencing it, you're just so grateful that it's
e-
gone. So
exactly.
did that journey make you want to explore this deeper?
Exactly. It's like, how can I
Mhm.
turn back now?
Right. Of course. I'd be the same way. I would be like, "Hey, let's just keep going."
I still had pain, I still had back
Right.
pain and other
Of
things
course.
and and anxiety and but yeah, that was the beginning for me in a lot of ways. So I did Bupo a couple of times and I did
Mhm.
ayahuasca like 20 times.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Do you purge every
and
time?
no, no, absolutely not. The
No.
main thing I've only ever purged from has been Hape. Even in ceremony, I never purged ayahuasca alone, but Hape is commonly served in ayahuasca ceremonies, especially when they're run by the indigenous. And
Yeah.
I've only ever purged in an ayahuasca ceremony when someone served me Hape during the ceremony.
Mm, interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Bufo was nothing less than just total magic for me because,
Yeah.
well, I did that in a private session, and I had set an intention. I knew that this famous ayahuasquero was coming to town to serve ayahuasca, and I said, well, I'd like to try Bufo. And I was told by one of my teachers that if you're going to do Bufo and ayahuasca, Bufo a couple of days before ayahuasca, because the Bufo opens the eighth and ninth chakras. Don't do
Mhm.
ayahuasca and then Bufo. You'd have to wait a lot longer between them. So I thought to myself, well, today, I said, if I don't get a strong sign hours, I'm just gonna say that I'm not. I'm just gonna skip the Bufo and just do the ayahuasca. And
Mhm.
literally the next morning, I got a voice note on my WhatsApp from this girl I knew who said, "Hey, yeah, I'm calling you out of the blue a bit, but I had this appointment tonight to do a private session with Tian and Mila because they were the other two facilitators portal. And my partner canceled. Would you be interested in doing it?
Wow. Well, that's it. You were supposed to do it. That's how it happens, right?
Yeah.
No coincidences. So those who don't know, bufo is toad venom, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
recommended to be facilitated by an actual shaman, medicine man, medicine woman, somebody who knows what they're doing. And she went with the aborigine. She went into the bush and she did it with an aborigine elder who was
Mhm.
experienced, and it was just her. And she told me she purged pretty bad,
Oh yeah, that's
but
great.
she said it was a wild experience though.
I'm
Mhm.
sure it was. Yeah. So, and
Yeah, she
another
had a
name
lot
for it is
of trauma. She had a lot of trauma that she was working
oh,
through. Mhm.
if she purged a lot, then no doubt, right? Because that's what it's
Yeah.
where a lot of it comes from. I think it might be important to mention also that 5-MeO DMT is also uh, what essentially the main thing in Bufo is, and so a
What
lot of
is it?
people they can look that up too.
What is it?
5-MeO. It's five, the number five
Uh huh.
dash M as in Mary, E as in elephant, O as in ostrich, dash DMT.
Oh, okay. Never heard that. That's good to know.
Hmm.
Yeah. So if anybody who's interested in looking that up, well, it's a very particular journey that you're ready to go on when you make these decisions to do what you're doing, and for
Yeah.
people who do this. And I want to get in more to some of the spiritual experiences that happen to you as you've gone into your journeys with sound and vibration and all that really cool stuff. So let's take our break here and then we'll come back and then we'll continue our discussion in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
Hi, I'm Melissa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on Om Times Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives. Welcome back. So, Bjorn, while we were during the break, I looked up the 5-MeO DMT. I guess they call it DMT for short, and it said that it's legal in Canada. So, of
Oh
course, right?
no.
I know,
Party
right? I'm like,
time.
and I'm like ayahuasca, and I'm thinking, yeah, there's another reason. What am I doing here? Like, I need to, but don't and I was also thinking, because my brain never stops. Like, can you imagine being the first human being that decided to like try toad venom or like you know what I mean? Like who, like what made you decide to like try it? Like it's just crazy to me how that works. So interesting. So, as you're having these experiences and you're doing them mostly in other countries, right? Or do you do them in the United States underneath a shaman or a medicine man or woman here? Or no, it's
All the
only in other
experiences
countries?
I'm describing so far are, and most of the ones that I have done on this particular path were in Mexico.
Mexico, right? Makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. So, what kind of experiences did you start having? Because is it did I read that you can channel now and you can connect to your spirit guides? Like
Yes,
that all opened up for you? Okay, can you
it
share a
did.
little bit about that?
Yeah, well, all I need to do is segue a little bit into that Bufo story, because
Okay.
was during that session with the Bufo, what happened was they said, okay, so just sit up on this mattress, and inhale until it's all gone, and they'll kind of guide me, like keep inhaling, and then when you're done, just throw your arms straight up in the air and fall back onto the mattress. So I did that, right? And I finish the inhale, and as soon as I start to drop, the sounds coming out of my mouth are something akin to, oh, I mean,
Wow.
it's
Yeah. Like
enter into
bliss. Hmm.
completely blissful state immediately, like instant. And
Interesting.
so I laid back and I started feeling this pressure sensation in the middle of my forehead, almost like someone was digging their fingernail, like pressing it into my forehead. It hurt. Uh,
Mm. Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, I see this blue light exploding everywhere. And then I
Wow.
start, I erupted into a song. A song just started flowing through me, and I'm laying there in this tranced out state, and people describe Bufo basically as essentially experiencing what death is like, and I'm
Mm.
somehow singing in the room there,
Interesting.
and
Wow.
so I'm singing in the language of my spirit guides, and um, all these vocal ranges were coming through that I'd never come close to singing before. We're talking about both on the low side and also like in the high side. All these frequencies and sounds were coming out of me, and
Hmm.
I'd never made, it was all new to me, and and uh, and so that was a beginning, because uh, within a couple of days, I'm going to these ayahuasca ceremonies, and people had heard about it, the music that I was singing, and so then I was
Hmm.
starting to get requests to chant in these ayahuasca ceremonies that were being held by someone else.
Interesting. Was it like a
And
light language? Was it like light language? Because I have heard more and more people are tapping into this light language that, or sounds that we don't do on a regular basis. Like we don't sing, here on earth, it's coming from a higher realm. Was it kind of like that?
similar, it's a dragon language, so it's not the same as the light language, but there's similarities for sure.
You called it a what language?
A dragon language.
Dragon? Dragon? Like a dragon?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Like
I
a
love
dragon,
that.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, in my meditation, I see a dragon every morning, so I'm gonna ask him to share with
Really?
me. Yeah, yeah, I do. It happened like 8 months
Ah.
ago. He came to me like 8 months ago, and I see him every morning in my
Do,
meditation. So I'm gonna ask him now to
do
make some
you
sounds.
see other beings in your meditations too, or is this the main one that you
Yeah,
see?
mostly it's a dragon, but I see little fairies, and I see yeah, some mystical creatures. I see a lot of my animals that have passed on, and my sister who has passed on. She's there all the time too. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
The dragon is most likely then your primary guide,
yeah.
spirit guide.
Right now, right now. Yeah, about 8 months ago, he started. I get masculine energy, but really, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just that's how it sort of comes through when my brain tries to process it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I started having these
Interesting.
encounters with dragons myself when I started doing ayahuasca. And that's what happened right away. Is
Hmm.
first, so this guy was in town, right? Panching Nima, and he was in town. He did 12 ceremonies, and he was from the Shipibo lineage. So their style, for those who don't know, is very different than all the others because the Shipibo don't have any traditional chants that they sing. And they do the whole ceremony in darkness. If you sit in the room in darkness, they don't light a fire out back, nothing. It's a real meditation in that sense. And so this guy was in town. He saw the first ceremony at some point because I'd never really had a clear vision of my guides before. That
Mhm.
moment, all of a sudden, I saw an entire parade of spirits moving across the room, like in a almost like a parade like fashion,
Mhm.
all different kinds of beings. I thought that the guy running the ceremony was somehow channeling these spirits into the room and I was observing them. But what I didn't realize at the time were it was just my guides showing and introducing themselves to me because they knew I could see them. Uh,
Interesting.
and and so as these guys are marching past me, and some of them start doing this really whimsical, hilarious things. One guy, he's dressed like a warrior, and then he opens a door to a chamber and closes the door, and then the chamber vanishes in a puff of green smoke. It's like funniest thing. And
It's
there
wild
was
experiences. Yeah. Wow.
there was a, there was a dragon there though, a green dragon at this time, and it looked at
Wow.
me, and I looked at it, and we had eye contact, and it's out in formation in this parade, and all of a sudden it breaks the formation and flies right at me and crashes into my shoulder, and I didn't
You feel
understand what
it.
was
So
happening.
you're feeling it, like your body is having the physical sensation, but you're in meditation. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah,
I
kind of. Okay.
saw it
Okay.
happen, and I could feel the energy.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say
Yeah.
that I felt it on too physical of a level, but
Okay.
I could feel the loving energy of it.
Yeah,
And
I understand. I understand what you mean. Yeah.
and what these guides were starting to slowly show me, like at the next ceremony I went to, 3 dragons crashed into me, and each ceremony I saw more and more dragons, and by the end, I'd see hundreds of them in the room with me. Um,
Wow.
and they were showing me that they don't exist outside of me, that they run through my energy. So
Interesting.
there's no separation between me and them. They're part of my team. It's like I
Mhm.
took a human experience here, and yeah, I mean, I am a spirit, whatever you want to say it, but but there's also an embodiment of me as a human, and that human has a spiritual team with them.
Mhm.
Like if you think about it, that like we're all sort of our own little corporation.
Right. Right. All connected to each other. So that's why,
Yeah,
hence the name Blue Dragon Healing, right? Hence your
yeah, the blue
why
dragon
you
is the
created,
boss.
right? Yeah.
And when I met
Wow.
that dragon, I met him out by the
Mhm.
fire, and I walked outside, and all of a sudden I see this blue dragon in front of me, and I mean, compared to every other one I'd seen up at this point, there was something about it that was like it made me, pause for a moment and like, wow, there's something very significant about this particular dragon, and it blew some kind of smoke on me, and I'm like, I don't know what this is all about, and
Mhm.
so this was I lived in New Mexico for about a year after that in the Tulum jungly area, and after that experience, mosquitoes left me alone completely.
No kidding. Really?
Yeah, and I thought maybe it was
You're lucky.
ayahuasca. I thought,
Maybe.
hey, maybe, but then other people that did ayahuasca with me were still having problems with the mosquitoes, so I couldn't chalk it up to that. So that was the only thing I could
Hmm.
think of.
Interesting. So now so are you taking people now to have these experiences? Are you helping facilitate for other people in their own healing journey?
Main thing that I do now, and it's always subject to expand and change, but I do work a lot just virtually because of the power of the quantum field. There's
Right.
not really any difference between me being in the room with someone versus me being on the other side of the world. And I use sound and through channeling and through a few
Mhm.
instruments that I use with it to basically help people shift deeper patterns. We don't, I don't really, I haven't made a practice of guiding people through plant medicine doing that, but I can. It's
Okay.
just not really necessarily needed because what happens with the sound is that if you even if you're even if you're not good at meditating and even if you have no control over your mind, the power of this kind of work is that if you listen to it long enough, it will steal the mind away anyway because
Right.
it's communicating directly to the body. If you consider what is sound, sound is light. They're the same thing, just different frequencies. So sound is the frequency that the body understands. So
Yeah.
when you use these healing frequencies, it's just talking right to the body, and the body is talking back. And that person's mind can think about whatever they want, but you know, at some point, their thoughts are going to shift while they listen to it.
Yeah. I listen to sound frequencies all the time. I play it all day in the background on an iPad.
Mm,
So if something's going on, like I'm having, like when I had the flu and I had congestion and stuff, like I played frequencies for that. Like, because I had the flu like about a month ago. I
mm,
haven't had it in so long, but I do it all the time. Like if something's, for whatever, could be for stress,
yeah,
it could be for a headache, it could be for stomach ache, but yeah,
yeah,
because I've found out that there's something very healing. I learned, I should say, that vibration, music, vibration has healing properties. Because you're right, it talks to your body and your mind, and you don't even have to be aware of it. You just play it in the background.
yeah. So I'm somehow like when I'm channeling the different guides that work within my energy are all sort
Hmm.
of being conducted by the blue dragon. So I have different voices that come out, different rhythms, whole range of different frequencies, different words. Each time, and no time is exactly the same because they're all in the moment to move
Right.
the energy.
Right. Well, yeah, because you're working specifically with one on one. Like, for example, if I came to you and I said, I want to go, because this always happens to me. Like, my stomach gets all out of whack when I'm stressed, right? So I want to come
Mhm.
to you and I said, let's work on that. You would specifically do channeling and you would pinpoint in my own frequency and body what's going on and where it is, right? And kind of like
What would
tune that kind of thing?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it would be like on my end, how I experience it, a lot of it is
Mhm.
it's very, very physical. So
Right.
when I'm working with someone's energy, I feel all the releases of the electrical charge because it
Wow.
goes through rushes through my whole body uh like so it can be happen 50 times to me in one session or even more depending on how much emotional congestion there is there. And
Okay.
so part of it is just clearing the debris to allow whatever is there that needs to process and move. And so that's what that charge is. It's like our attachment to what's there
Mhm.
or to what's happened. And it's a exploration, you could say, into the deeper parts of where you come from and your primal origin so that as you shift back through, you come out perhaps a little bit less self serious because you can see the part of yourself that you had really seen yourself as, but then
Mhm.
just remembering that it's just one part of you.
Right. Do you call it biofield tuning, the work that you do? What's it? I'm probably going to say this wrong. Matsameni? I don't know what that is. I've never heard that before. Matsameni.
uh,
And it helps you explore biofield tuning. Yeah, I didn't know what that meant. When I was looking at your notes, I was like, what is that? I have to ask about that.
That's how many was actually one of my teachers. And so,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would have never got that. Okay, good.
yeah, I worked with him doing a diet, a spiritual plant diet, where I never physically took
Mm,
the plant, but I dieted the plant. It's called Marosa, one of the master plants in Amazon. It's all about the heart. And so I was
mhm.
basically, I met with him every 2, 3 weeks. He would give me a new chant, and I would listen to this chant every day. This is before I came back to the States and started doing biofield tuning. I'd listen to the chant every day, and then I would do like a grounding ritual with smoke like a mapacho and do like a 7 directions thing. Anyway, about a month into that journey, I went out for a walk one evening, and I had just this experience where it was like I had this feeling of this really warm sensation in the upper middle part of my chest, and then this expansion, almost like the petals of a flower blooming all at once, and then this sense of deep, beautiful love just gushing through me, to where everything I looked at in the physical world, was I falling in love with. If I put my attention on anything, I
Oh,
was in love
wow.
with it. I was stumbling around like a drunk everywhere I looked, even in the air. I would see these blends of colors, and it's like the most beautiful painting I'd ever seen. But it would constantly shift and change. When I shifted and changed, it was so magical, and that was without
Oh,
actually
wow.
physically ingesting a substance. So I began to realize, wow, remote work can be very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I came back to the States, and I started playing with tuning forks organically because I liked it.
Mhm.
And then I learned about biofield tuning online, and it's a kind of an established healing modality where you can use tuning forks and target, be very targeted with how you work with a person's energy field. And so I got
Right.
certified in that. Then eventually I integrated that into my chanting rather than integrate my chanting
Yeah.
into that.
That makes
So it's
sense.
part of it,
That makes sense.
small part of it,
Mhm.
yeah, but it's part of the experience, yeah.
Now, how do you do this kind of work and not take that on? Do you have to go through like a whole after you work with a client, like a whole cleaning or cleansing yourself? Because, you're mixing the energy. You're helping people release all this energy. That's got to be tiring, I would think. Or have you found a way to protect yourself?
Oh, I generally keep pretty close monitor on my energy, and I'm not usually looking to do more than 1 or 2 sessions in a day. I'm
Okay.
not, even if I could make a lot more money, I wouldn't do it, because I want to keep my energy balanced. And I'm kind of
Yeah.
from a human design standpoint, a 6'2" in my hermiting phase. So I need to hermit every so often
Mm.
just to
Yeah.
regain my energy. But when I'm working with a client, there are many times because we're releasing emotional charge, and a lot of the work
Right.
I'm doing is on the collective level. So there are patterns that also run through me. So a lot of times I receive a healing along with them, and many times I'll walk out and feel 10 times better than I even did when I entered the session.
Oh, that's interesting. That makes sense,
Hmm.
though. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wow, it's fascinating. So, for anybody listening who may be interested in working with you, they have whatever
Hmm.
they have in their own life going on. What does a session look like with you?
So we set it for an hour. Sometimes we go a few minutes longer, just depending on things. And so we just start out, have a little chit chat, talk, and then figure out a little bit about what's going on in their life right now. And we sort of make the connection between where are their areas of tension between them and other people. And that's usually where I focus the work, because that somehow strings back to the deeper parts of our emotions, because our emotions are all about our feelings about ourselves and other people.
Hmm.
And so I use that, and then I just start in usually with some tuning forks just to clear a lot of the charge, and then I may do a chant with my drum. I may stick with the tuning forks. I might incorporate something else into the equation. We might do some creative storytelling. Like I cater each experience to the person, so it's more bespoke, you could say.
Yeah. Now, do people usually need a series of sessions, or is everybody individual? Some people, one session is good for them, or like, how does that usually show up for you?
So the difference is if someone's going through a transition or a transformation, right? So
Hmm.
it's like maybe someone's parent passed away some time ago and they just can't move past the grief. That's a
Hmm.
transition, right?
Yeah.
And you may probably only need one session for that, maybe more, but one has done plenty for other people, and we'll just process a lot in one session. If it's like I'm changing the direction of my career and I want to create a life that is in more alignment with my sense of being, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able
Right.
to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
miracles in one session, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, like you go
I,
for like you go to see a therapist and you had a lifetime of trauma and you want to be like done. You're like, "Okay, did you fix me?" No, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, it's like anything else. It depends on what you're trying to process, what you're trying to move,
yeah.
where you're at in your life, and whether
I
you
think
need a series or sessions or one.
I think
So can you
the
share a little bit about, without obviously delving into anybody's personal details, some experiences some of your clients have shared with you after a session?
sure, sure. And I'll just say also that I think it's important to mention that people that tend to be attracted to this work tend to have sort of a place where they aren't so self-serious, and they're
Yeah.
looking for a more lighthearted approach to healing. That's what this is all about, right? Okay, so well, if we talk about grief, there was a woman that
Hmm.
came to me, and her father had passed away a year ago, and she had a business that she had been very successful with, her own business for a while, but she was completely stifled with creativity to the point where
Yeah.
it was just like, it was too much. So we did a session, and that for that one I had to lay down in the hammock after for for a couple hours. But she
Wow.
said that she, a lot of times coming out of a healing session, she feels lighter right away, but this time she felt heavier, and she had to go to take to sleep, and she fell asleep and slept for about 2 hours. But when she woke up, she felt a very significant difference, and her creativity came back, and she's just been, I don't know what the term is when someone is extremely active. I see her everywhere
Mm-hmm.
all the time, creating new things. So uh, yeah, that was very, powerful for her, and she even did a video testimonial for me.
Yeah, it sounds like she was paralyzed by her grief. That happens a lot. When you're a creative person, if you're like me, like I notice when certain things happen that are very heavy, I feel super blocked creatively and I feel paralyzed.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I
difficult.
don't know where to go. Like I can't get that creative. I can't tap into my creative energy. So I understand. I understand that. Wow. That's
Yeah,
pretty
because
cool. That's
when
pretty
we tap
cool.
into those things, we can fill up with, energies that aren't really even ours to process. And so sometimes the traditional approaches for people, they just don't get the job done because they're not going deep enough.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And carrying all of that is heavy and it makes you tired and lazy, and that's why we escape, right? Our
mm,
phones, Netflix, drugs, alcohol, food, shopping, sex, whatever, because we're numbing ourselves out because we're not dealing with what's really going on, right? Which
Yeah,
is what we need to do.
I have this theory about men and women in the sense that if you look at how we're built, like a male's bones tend to be more dense, right? So I
Right.
get this sense that part of my purpose of being a man on the planet here is to help deal with heavier energies. Because my body is built to withstand, a certain
Sense.
amount of force.
Yeah. That makes sense. I like that. Never thought about it before. So Bjorn, we only have a minute left. Anything you Oh, we don't even have a minute. Tell people how
Oh
to find
no!
you. Tell people how to find you.
BlueDragonHealing.net. There's also a podcast, Blue Dragon Healing Podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation today. It was very interesting. Thank you for being here with me. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. And I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.